Welcome to the Screen Rot Podcast, the podcast where we discuss the weirdest and worst content that's been on our screens and indeed our minds. Shout out to everyone who subscribes to us over on Apple, Spotify or YouTube. You're doing us a big favour, but not as big a favour as the patrons who pay for this podcast, the Freemasons who pay £3.99 a month for that. They get an extra episode like this every single week. They get access to the Rot Bar, the live stream show we do once a month. They're also getting priority access to tickets. Not quite as much priority as the Illuminati, $5.99 top tier. They're getting a free hat on their heads and access to our mad group chat. Shout out to Eugene, who runs our Twitter account. He may be sent by God. And he will soon be going on paternity leave. Good old Huge. And a big shout, a big wink and a kiss to the ladies who listen.
Yeah, please.
And I said it last week, but I'll say it again. I cannot stop looking at them and how gorgeous and sexy they are.
Right.
They are the most gorgeous and sexy women in the United Kingdom, and I'm here with Jake Farrell. I need to stop saying that because I've wound up my missus a lot recently. I don't look at them.
Despite what I just said. Despite what I literally just said. Yeah.
Despite everything I said in the last episode.
Big shout out to Eugene. By now, hopefully, him and his partner, the recipient of a bouncing baby boy. Eugene, of course, will not be getting... I believe it is, yeah. I believe they know that.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Eugene, of course, not being paid for paternity leave. He will be expected to be tweeting from the hospital bed.
That's a joke. We are paying him, but we're not doing that Scandi shit where he gets 2 years and a fucking
gets 2 days.
He gets he's having like a week or so. He's only tweeting.
Yeah, and we can still ring him any time of day or night.
I never tweeted more than when my kid was born. So yeah, take a week off if you want, Eugene. I'll see you in the group chat. Son.
Lou was born during first lockdown as well, right?
Daughter, yeah.
So it was double. Was that nice to be? You didn't have any distractions, nothing out in the world. Obviously, you had the existential dread of COVID, which isn't ideal. But other than that, was it? How was it? It
kind of was ideal.
Was it?
I don't mind telling you, it kind of was ideal.
Yeah.
The existential threat of COVID, because what happened? So my missus is a midwife. She was pregnant at the time. The hospital, because you remember like the first bit of COVID, it was like, oh, we're all going to fucking die.
Yeah,
like 28 days later.
We had no idea what was going to come next.
Mention of 28 days later in today.
Zombies on the brain.
There'll be a poster on YouTube somewhere that I've passed. Yeah. Basically, she got, like, they were like, fucking hell, don't come in, you might die. So they just wrote her off work. So that's the missus off. And then... with me, my work changed and I was just doing a lot of remote podcasting, so I was at home a lot. So that bit was really good. Having the kid in lockdown was kind of sweet, kind of fine.
My mate Andy, they had their first during lockdown 1, and him and his wife got incredibly into online poker. They were and they were both just playing online poker on their phones, because I think a lot it's just feeding and sleeping really during that time, isn't it? You're just napping where you can. The baby's kind of like a little slug, and you're just trying to keep it going.
Description from a man who doesn't really want children. The baby's like a little slug. That's right, Jay. Yeah. The love of your life. Yeah, a bundle of joy that's for many a miracle.
But I will say it's like
a little slug.
It can't play online poker with you at that.
No, it can't. Not yet. I don't think it's legal. But yeah, you're right.
It would if it could, but it's just a legal issue.
So I think Eugene, take the time you need.
Yeah, take all 48 hours that you need.
I think we'll see him on the group chat.
I might imagine that we'll be getting a few bits and pieces from him on there.
This is quite a special episode of Screen Rot. In the sense that since episode 1, we've been talking about our hairlines. I think a clip from the first episode that did quite well, the first ever episode, was us saying how we get our hair cut, which is we get a sort of skin fade on the side and with the top, do what you can. Yeah,
I was still asking Bruno from, I was about to name the barbers then, but it's kind of doxing me.
Why would you not?
It's really near my house.
Well, it is now then. Yeah, you can't name it now.
Yeah, true.
You could have been like, that barber shop that used to travel for hours to go to.
Yeah. At the time, I was still asking Bruno to kind of reconstruct a line for me, a kind of crop at the front. I wasn't fully...
You were still pushed forward?
I was still pushed forward. I'm not. I wasn't in my kind of... You're
going back.
Walton Goggins, receding era.
I'm still pushed forward. And I think I'm going to be pushed forward for a long time.
Because
in 3 days, I fly to Istanbul. Istanbul.
What's that?
Huh?
What's that?
That's how they say it.
What do you mean?
Istanbul.
Who says?
Huh?
The Turks?
Yeah.
Why do they say...
Istanbul Ottoman Empire. That's right, eh? You look horrified.
It's just so weird.
The Ottomans who have occupied Istanbul. That's where I'm going to get a hair transplant. Wow. I'm going on Sunday.
First mention of the Ottoman Empire on the pod.
Yeah, it won't be the last. I can't wait to see the Ottomans on Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm going on Sunday, and I have to say I'm fucking dreading it.
You're going for a SponCon hair transplant.
Well, yeah. So this is it. So it started off as a thing. True Geordie.
Yeah, True Geordie's organised.
Whose football show I regularly do.
From the Mad Libs of your life.
He was.
True Geordie's organised Jacob a hair transplant.
Well, it was. It's not anymore. He's doing a discount code. He would do like a discount code for a hair transplant clinic. That's real. That's real end of the world stuff. Isn't it?
It's good stuff.
I actually got 20% off on my hair transplant
because I listened to the True Geordie
football podcast that gave me a discount. Anyway, and I was chatting with him and his producer, and I was like, "You're not going to get one, Brian?" He's like, "No, I look good bald," and he does look good bald. So I was like, I was sort of joking, like, "I'll fucking get one," and they were like, "Would you?" I was like, "Yeah," and they were like, "Let us talk to the clinic." So then it became a thing of like, "Yeah, okay, you can have a free hair transplant." And I was like, "Wow." And then things sort of moved, developed. I'm talking to a journalist called Tom Usher, who's making a thing for Joe.co.uk about going bald, and he was like, "You guys joke about it a lot on your podcast." I was like, "Yeah," and he was like, "Could I come and watch you get the hair transplant?" And now it's become a thing where, and I don't mind saying, and it will become apparent when you see my Instagram, that I'm getting paid to get a hair transplant. I will say the dynamic has shifted. I've been saying to my missus ever since I met her, I need a hair transplant. As soon as it was like, we will pay you, and it's like contract signed, flights booked, you go in.
Yes.
I really don't want a hair transplant.
Yeah.
I really think I'm okay.
It really is a boy that cried wolf situation we're in.
And what I will say, I've had a few people be like, because we've promoted a product called Dents on this show.
Yes.
Which is a topical finasteride spray you put on your hair. It stops your hair falling out. I've been using that since we started this podcast 18 months ago. I believe it does work, and it stops my hair receding any further. I've had a lot of people be like, "So why are you getting a hair transplant?" And it's like, well, because I'm getting paid, and it'll bring it forward. The nice thing is, the people who do Dents, the company, they're actually a former hair transplant clinic,
right?
Who now have gone into the pharmaceutical side of things. The guy who runs it, a geezer called Ash, lovely bloke, he's been FaceTiming me, telling me what to ask for.
Right.
It's like knowing someone who's like, "Oh, you're going out for Vietnamese? I've never had Vietnamese food before. Get the pho."
Yeah.
Genuinely, I've got a list on my phone of like the things I need to insist upon when I'm getting this transplant. I'm speaking to the surgeon tomorrow. So one thing, basically,
I lived in Vietnam for a while. You really want to go for go heavy on the basil with the pho. That's the areas that we're in.
That blows my mind if people eat basil with Vietnamese. Have that on a ragu. What a podcast. So basically, I've got to make sure. What happens sometimes is they'll put two hairs into one hole. Got to make sure they don't do that.
I've heard about that. Yeah. Two hairs, one hole.
Steady. I've got to make sure that they don't leave the hairs out of my head for too long.
I think that's fair to say, yeah.
You've got to get them out and back in again as fast as possible. Should be fine with me, because I'm having a really small procedure. I'm not having much done. The other thing I've got to be certain
What kind of time are we talking? Like within 24 hours? It's got to be within 30 seconds. Fuck!
Well, just as soon as possible. The sooner the better.
Right. So if he says to you, come back in 5 days, we'll see if he can fit you in.
Well, I'm only going for like a day and a half.
Okay.
And I think the procedure's only a couple of hours. I don't know. I have no idea. We'll be recording.
Yeah, I've got the mics in my bag. Don't let me.
No, I mean like a few days after I get back.
Okay.
And the other thing I've got to do is make sure.
Could you be skinhead at that point?
I'm not shaving it.
Right.
I don't need to shave it.
Okay.
Because they're not doing that much on me.
Okay.
The other thing that I've got to do is I've got to make sure they put them in the right direction.
How are you going to do that?
That's what I said. Because like your hair, you've got a bit of a cowlick at the front.
A bit, brother.
Yeah.
If this is cut down, it's insane. It's going in like 4 different directions at once.
Yours sticks up.
Yes.
I've got to make sure he doesn't do that to me.
You could end up with a cowlick.
If they put him in at the wrong angle.
That's fucking amazing.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Obviously, I want you to have a good result from this. If you come back with a ginger cowlick and we both look the same, I'm going to be buzzing.
Well, what we are going to do, and I've promised this already, I am going to make a Patreon special, like a documentary. I'm going to do loads of video blogs. I'm going to film myself.
Yeah.
I don't know how good that's going to come out. I've never made it.
We're going to FaceTime each other. We can do a bit of...
that's a great idea, yeah.
We do a bit of chat, see how you're going, see how you're bearing up.
So yeah, out I'd say pretty soon... will be maybe out already. Will be the turkey special.
The turkey special.
The Ottoman. We'll call it the Ottoman special. That sounds like a kebab, doesn't it? If you get the Ottoman special,
I'll have the Ottoman special and a can of Sprite, please.
That's too sheesh in one of those nice koftas, isn't it?
Did you hear about? Not hear about. I recently became aware that I think the Black British community are really into Sprite. Were you aware of this?
I thought they liked ting.
What's that?
You never heard of ting?
No. Oh, is that like it's like the mango fizzy? Was it? No, that's the pineapple one, isn't it? What am I thinking of?
It's just how they say things. It's just how they... I'm joking. no, you're right. It's actually grapefruit. It's like a fizzy grapefruit. Okay. That's only in Jamaica.
You weren't aware of this then?
What?
The
Black
Sprite
people
thing.
like Sprite?
Yeah.
Never heard that before in my fucking life.
Oh, okay, write in and tell us if that's true.
That?
I'm pretty sure I saw it in a reel. Was it not on one of those
Careful.
Uncle Percy reels?
Do you want to talk about Uncle Percy quickly? Do you want to talk about Uncle Percy?
Have we not talked about Uncle Percy already?
No, we haven't.
Not on here.
Oh man, we've become fans of a comedian called Kane Brown.
Yeah, this is inverse screen roll. We're not telling you bad stuff now. This is
we
one
are
of the funniest things
this
I've ever
guy's
seen.
so fucking funny. Kane Brown. He's a really good comedian. He's basically people always find this weird when this is explained to them. There's a thing in the comedy industry called the black circuit.
And I have talked about this, I swear. Maybe not on a main episode.
You're like, I've felt this discomfort before. No, and it's genuinely...
We've been here before.
Some people call it the quote-unquote urban circuit. White people call it the urban circuit.
Right.
It is the black circuit, and I actually think it's weirder if you tiptoe around and call it the urban circuit. If it only happens in cities.
Yeah.
But like the black circuit, it is what it says on the tin. It's like a circuit of black comedians performing largely for black audiences, and it's incredible because there'll be people who are like huge on the black circuit. But because they're not on what people call the mainstream circuit, you won't know who they are. Kane Brown is a great example of this. Many people won't have heard of Kane Brown. I fucking tell you now, he can sell more tickets than white people who are like quote unquote famous on the mainstream TV circuit.
Right.
Anyway, this Kane Brown guy, he does his own podcast. I think it's called the Rated 18 Plus podcast. It is so fucking funny. I recommend you watch it now. One of the funniest things, and I'm not sure if it's actually his uncle or if it's a guy called Uncle Percy. But he's got a I think a Rastafarian uncle. It's fair to say.
Yes.
Called Uncle Percy. Again, we don't know if it's his uncle or not. But this guy, I think. There's a reason why they have to hide his face.
Yeah, we're not exactly sure why that is, but you could speculate.
It could be this, it could be that, we don't know, but you can't show Uncle Percy's face. For some reason, what they do, they show his hands, but they also can't let you see his actual hands.
Yes. We think because he's got an identifying tattoo. But
maybe he's got
exactly
tattoos,
sure.
Maybe there are things on his hands that identify him. So what they do, like, when it's a podcast like this, in a really nice studio.
Yeah.
You'll see Kane Brown being funny.
Yeah.
They'll have like Big Nasty or someone on. Then it will cut to this Rastafarian guy. You're not allowed to see his face.
Yeah.
You just see his hands wearing gloves.
Yes.
Wearing these like white gloves.
He looks like a snooker referee.
I mean, there's a clip. It's so fucking funny.
Go and watch the episode with Big Nasty on, where they're talking about analingus. They don't call it that.
Well, they talk about food, and like Kane Brown is just going, I eat loads of food. I've got a big appetite. I eat loads, and Uncle Percy just goes, I don't eat what you eat, and he's like, pardon? He goes, no, listen to me. I don't eat what you eat. And he's like, what do you mean? And he goes, you eat arse. It's like, you eat arse.
I think the phrase might be pum-pum that they use at some point.
He eat pum-pum.
I'm just imagining you turning up for your spitting image audition. Jacob, who are you going to do for us today? I have actually got a pitch-perfect Uncle Percy from the Rated 18 podcast.
At one point, because it's a thing in that culture that it's some people don't like going down on women. Some people definitely don't like eating women's bums. And Uncle Percy just goes, he eats shit.
Uncle Percy's not a fan. It's funny.
The funniest bit of it is it's funny how this came to us. It's our friend John Kearns.
Yes.
It's like, you got to watch this show. It's so funny. And like, if you've seen John, you wouldn't imagine he's a massive, like...
Imagine John doing the black circuit in Croydon.
I've done black circuit gigs.
I reckon you do fine at those.
I think...
John's act, I don't think, translates. Actually, no, John's just funny. John could do anywhere.
I haven't done a gig on the black circuit in a very, 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 very long time. When I was new, I did. And you might remember when I was new, I used to do a bit of material about nationalism, about St. George's Day.
Yeah.
How silly St. George's Day. Right. And the thing is, it's quite... like, I think if you do it to a white audience, it's like a sort of knowing thing about growing nationalism. I was doing it, just after Brexit, right?
Right.
Whereas if you do it in front of like a black audience and you're like, my family loves St. George's Day, you just sound apologetic. Do you know what I mean? And I remember I used to do I remember doing that gig. I did a gig once at the Stratford Theatre, and it was like black act, me, died on my fucking arse because I was like, oh, we silly sometimes, white people. What? I was shit. I was so bad. And then there's a geezer called Lenny Sherman, who you know.
Yeah.
He's this guy, big fucking geezer, ex-Millwall hooligan, this comedian. He's called Lenny Sherman.
And he's like a kind of reformed character, isn't he? He's into meditation and exercise.
Fucking
lovely man.
He although I will say I was driving to a gig with him once in Scunthorpe, fucking long way away, and I don't think he'd mind me saying he spoke about this a lot, but he's a lovely guy now, but he has been to jail in the past lately. Right. And I fell asleep. I fell asleep. He was driving me home from a gig in his van, and I fell asleep. And I don't think he realised I'd fallen asleep. I sort of drifted and woke up. And as I woke up, he was talking about beating up a paedophile in prison. But we
that's like me on this podcast. Every so often I nod off, and then you're talking. Oh fuck, he's talking about killing one of the criminals.
I was doing this gig with Lenny, and Lenny, I was like this apologetic guy, and then Lenny did some material. I mean, he's got this joke about working with Muslims, which I think some people are like, oh God, I think when he does it at white gigs, Lenny, right. I think people are like, oh God, he's a bit bloody tense. He's talking about stereotypes about people of different heritage. Right. Whereas at a black gig, that is what those gigs are. Right. It's like Jamaicans be like, but Ghanaians be like. Yeah. So when it's like fucking massive Millwall working class guys like Muslims be like, I was like, this is what we like to do. Yeah, this is what this is what our comedy is.
And he does all of that stuff, I think, Lenny, with a good deal of affection and a good deal of like.
Don't get me wrong. He's often the butt of that joke. He is not a racist comedian.
Yeah.
He's not, like, let me be very clear. He's not a racist comedian. No. The jokes are like well-informed stuff, and he relies on stereotype in a way that any joke does.
Often the stereotype of him being a hooligan when actually now like, he's a kind of meditating.
I mean, one of his jokes, Lenny, is people often ask me, they go, Lenny, obviously you're a Millwall fan, bit of a geezer. What's your view on Muslims? I say, great. I've got a penthouse overlooking a mosque.
That's good.
And it's that.
That's funny. How do we get onto that? Yeah, so go and listen to Kane Brown. Also, how about this watch this for a gear change? I've got another recommendation for you. Last night, I was lucky enough to go and see the new film, The Ballad of Wallace Island, by Tim Key and Tom Basden. It is unbelievable. It is one of the best comedies I've ever seen. It's definitely one of the best romantic comedies I've ever seen. It's going to be absolutely huge. Do yourself a favour, go and watch it. I saw Tim Lewis there as well, the only nice man in the comedy industry.
Yep. Tim Key's a nice man.
Tim Key's a nice man, that's
true. He's a friend of the pod.
He's a friend of the pod.
I saw him on Sunday, actually. I randomly bumped into him, but he was wearing the same trainers as my daughter.
That's good stuff. But yeah, go and see it. I think it's out next week when this comes out. But
that was what I just said to you then. That is genuinely like off-pod. I forgot we were recording. Yeah, I was like, that's nowhere near interesting enough for this. Just another mate wearing the same shoes as Mike.
While we're on the subject of positive recommendations, go and listen to Kane Brown and Big Nasty talk about eating arse, and then go and watch Tim Key and Tom Basden. Really good stuff.
A comedian with a very similar name to Tom Basden who got done for nonsense.
I don't know.
There is. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway,
Tom Basden not been done for nonsense. He was there last night. It's all fine.
Well,
they did a Q&A after.
Right, let's get into it. This week, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about
one of the most requested subjects in ages.
One of the most requested subjects we've had, and one where I'm like, it would have been easier just to get him on. Because all he does is podcasts.
Yeah, that's true. He's a podcast guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the king of marketing. This week we're talking about Rory Sutherland.
Rory.
Oi, get on this.
Please.
Rory Sutherland.
What a name that is, by the way.
Well, it's there's something about Rory Sutherland that reminds me of a character from Wind in the Willows. And it's also the name is exactly what he would. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like Mr. Sutherland.
It's somehow evocative of his vibe, isn't it?
From the estate on the country, Mr. Sutherland.
If his name wasn't Rory Sutherland, it'd be like Percy Windbag or something like that.
Percy Windbag.
The Lord of Windbag Manor.
Rupert Large Trousers here. How do I intro Rory Sutherland? Unks be pontificating, man. Unks is yapping.
If we
Unks is waffling, man.
Yeah.
Unks is fucking waffling. This guy basically,
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Rory Sutherland, and it's actually quite a beautiful story of how he's become a viral sensation, right? Because this guy just popped up out of fucking nowhere, and now he's been on every podcast around. I spoke to Chris Williams, the modern Wisdom. Chris Williamson. I always get his name wrong.
Yeah. Liam Williams, Chris Williamson.
Liam Williams.
Both northern, both moaning, different ways.
To varying levels of success. Chris Williamson, he's been on Chris Williamson's podcast 9 times.
Yeah.
Right? He's been on Jamie Lang's podcast. He's been on like food podcasts. He's been on every...
Unks do be yapping, I guess.
Unks is waffling. Basically, this guy...
Do you reckon this guy eats arse?
He eats toes. I reckon he eats arse. I reckon he fucks. Second episode. No, I reckon he fucks.
Yeah,
he actually.
Like you read about.
I mean, I've done a lot of like listening and watching of this guy over the last couple of days since we decided to do him, and he does say some pretty horny stuff.
This
about
guy fucks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he fucks. Yeah. This Unks fucks, man. Unks be fucking. Unks be fucking. That's a crazy.
Me turning up at a gig in Croydon. Oi, do you know about Rory Sutherland? Unks be waffling, right? Get off! Get Kane Brown on.
He's a marketing exec, and he's been a marketing exec for a very long time. Through the kind of boom of the 90s and noughties, through now, he's still an exec of
some of the lunches this guy would have had.
Yeah, he's still an exec at like a huge marketing firm now, and basically he it's like, I laughed at this sentence for a second. He's been talking for years, but like. The first clip is him doing some kind of like talk or speech or presentation.
Yeah.
He's been doing that for fucking years.
Yes.
And what happened was a young guy started just getting clips and just
of his talks.
Yeah. Without him knowing.
At conferences, yeah.
At conferences. He like something like TED Talks, but more in the marketing industry. He's just been fucking everywhere chatting for fucking ages. And some young guy started just clipping it up and sticking it on TikTok, and it was going mad because he's kind of perfect for the moment. He talks a lot about marketing and how to like create and sell a product, and I think at a time when like grindcore,
right.
You know, everyone's a bit of an entrepreneur at the moment,
and also a premium on like. Heterodox or like contrarian thinking outside the box. Actually, everything you know about this thing is wrong.
So he does those two things. It's kind of like observations on human behaviour from a kind of, as you say, I know you think people do this, but here's what they actually do.
Yeah.
He does that, which appeals to a kind of Joe Rogan, Peterson audience.
Yeah.
But then he also has got Here's How You Sell a Product, which appeals to a kind of Simon Squibb, make some money, quit your job and buy some crypto audience.
Yes.
So it's like the two kind of big things of the moment.
Yeah.
He's actually just been doing it for years. And what happened was this young guy went and just clipped up loads of the shit he's been, where Unks has been waffling. And it went viral.
That will never not be funny to me.
It went viral without him knowing.
Right.
And I think it was his daughters. He's got daughters in their 20s who were like, Dad, you're famous on TikTok. And he's just been pottering around saying this shit for years.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh shit, there's this massive TikTok account. It's all me. It's not actually me doing it, but it's me. So he bought the TikTok account.
Wow.
Yeah, he bought the TikTok account. And now he just Unks is waffling. He's just going, and it's fascinating. It like what he says is really interesting, and then you kind of go, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, do you know what I mean? And
100%.
actually, I'm going to get to my observation, my kind of theory on him in a minute. But there's something quite beautiful. But it's like we'll watch the first one, and the first one is quite a specific. It's like, okay, this is a marketing exec talking.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start there. And then we'll get onto some of the other stuff he says. But I think it's very interesting when we discuss this guy, his vibe, what he looks like, what he sounds like, and why we all want to listen to it.
Yes.
Because I think it's quite interesting.
So this is classic Sutherland, I guess. Vintage Sutherland. Here he is talking about...
This is what... Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah. This is what he's been doing for a long time.
Right.
For a long time, he's been going around, fuck knows where he is at the moment, talking about products, marketing, advertising, that kind of thing. What's happening now is he'll do Chris Williamson.
He'll get specifically
He's done
invited
9
onto
episodes,
podcasts.
and it's less about how do you sell a car. It's more about why do we sleep on a certain side of the bed, and should we do the carnivore diet, right? And it's
kind of tailored to the audience.
But yeah, exactly. But the amazing thing is, and this is real when you know someone's a good podcaster. And I put him up there with like the Porky Parrys of this world. He can talk about fucking anything.
Oh no, Unks could waffle about
my God.
anything.
And what you realise with this guy, and I realise it's ironic, so I've had my
headphones
fourth...
are coming off, everyone. We're about 10 minutes away from the clip.
But the thing is, I've had my 4th caffeinated drink of the day, and I'm doing this now.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know what to watch to research him, so I don't know why I went for Jamie Lang, but I was like, fuck it, I'll watch that one. I mean, I don't watch loads of Jamie's stuff. He must have put his feet up halfway through the episode, because he just doesn't stop talking.
Right.
And I don't know what they would have briefed him. I don't know whether he's coming with stories.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they said, we really want to hear, can you talk about this?
Yeah.
He turns up, like, this guy, how old is Sutherland? Like 55?
Yeah, he must be in his 50s,
nearly 60?
late 50s,
maybe older
60s,
than that. Like, he turns up with a lost Mary.
Yes.
And a fucking mouth.
Yeah.
And he just
Giving
yaps.
it verbals.
He just yaps.
Giving it absolute
and
verbals.
at one point, you can see, I watched it on YouTube, you can see Lang, within 5 minutes, just sits back in his chair, just goes, oh, this is going to be an easy one.
Easy day at the office.
Unks is yapping.
Unks do be yapping. So this is Rory Sutherland, and he's talking about Red Bull.
The most successful attempt to compete with Coca-Cola by miles is Red Bull. And it comes in a tiny can, it costs a fortune, and it tastes disgusting. Okay? Now, when I say it tastes disgusting, that's not a subjective opinion. They researched it, and they went to a company which only researches, I promise this exists, it only researches the taste of carbonated drinks. And they asked people, what do you think of this drink? We're thinking of launching this drink. What do you think?
Okay, yeah.
And normally the research would come back with a failed product. They actually said, this is the worst drink we have researched in the entire history of our company. Normally research respondents would say something like, oh, it's a bit sweet for me, it's more for kids, bit cloying, not really my thing. No. In this case, they came back with phrases like,
cloying
I
very
wouldn't
often.
drink this piss if you paid me.
Yeah, didn't happen.
And yet, weirdly, the drink is so successful that they can basically run a Formula One team, on the profit for the lols, okay? That's how successful it is. Now, what I mean by that is the opposite of a good idea is sometimes
I don't care about
idea.
one thing you
That's
said
what's
so
weird
far.
about
It's brilliant.
psychology. Kind of contradictory. Now, let me explain why I think Red Bull's successful, which is
Don't
it
care.
isn't actually a drink in the sense that Fanta's a drink. It's actually a kind of placebo. Or you could say it's a drug. Now, if you think about it, if you want a nice drink, you want it to taste nice. That's why Fanta's quite popular. It tastes like orange. We probably have a strong evolutionary propensity to drink things that taste a bit like orange.
Yeah,
okay.
Unc.
On the other hand, once you frame it as something with psychoactive or psychotropic powers, all the rules change. All the things that are a disadvantage as a drink are a strength as a placebo, okay? It's expensive, comes in a small measured dose, which suggests to our unconscious that it's really, really potent. It tastes weird. Now, if you think about it, nearly all drugs taste weird.
Amazing.
He doesn't even finish his point.
No.
That clip has had 6 million views.
Wow.
And I'd ask you, did you enjoy that? Because I really did. I loved it. And
I'm definitely compelled by him. He's telling a story at all times, right? There's always a piece of information that he's withholding from you that you have to watch to the end of the clip. And I think a good presenter or a good storyteller does that.
An orator.
Yeah.
I think that's... I mean, he reminds me, like...
He reminds me of Uncle Percy in that sense. In that he's...
Well, yeah. I mean, in a different... Maybe he is our cultural Uncle Percy.
Rory Sutherland is the Uncle Percy to the privately educated community.
But yeah, exactly that. Exactly that.
They have to put him in gloves because he's got tattoos on his hands.
But if you listen to what he's actually saying there, it's nonsense.
Yes.
It's complete nonsense. It's he doesn't even finish his...
There's like a kernel of truth.
There is one competitor to Coca-Cola, and it's Red Bull. And
okay,
why?
so let's take that as a... let's take that.
It's disgusting.
That's
It's disgusting.
All three of those things aren't true.
And they actually went to a carbonated drinks questionnaire team. And this is true, by the way. They tried it. And usually it says not to my toast. They said that is the most disgusting piss I've ever tasted.
And there's there's a kernel of truth in the end. That, like, if he said to me in 10 seconds, like, I reckon the reason people like Red Bull is because they're just so desperate to be caffeinated that the small can works in its favour because of this unconscious thing, and the taste works in its favour because you're imagining it as medicine.
Yeah.
And the taste, all of that kind of thing. It's like, okay, yeah, fair enough. But like that bit's not backed up by anything. There's this kind of apocryphal study of like, they did this study and everyone said it tasted like piss. And at one point he says, that's literally what they said. Well, what are you talking about? Who? But it's just this pithy story boiled down that he's a cadence guy as well, right? He talks like a horse racing commentator.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason you're drawn to listening to him as well. Is that kind of, and then they did this thing, of course, right? But then obviously after that, what happened after that was this. And you have to listen to me. But now I'm about to tell you something that you haven't heard before. And that's this, and it's this constant like it's almost like set up punchline stuff.
No,
really,
when I was watching him, I was like, "This is stand up,
it's
not funny." and I was like, actually, it says something about stand up. The thing with stand up is ideally you do it in rooms with quite large amounts of people.
Yeah.
And I think in a large group of people, you feel comfortable letting the person know that they're not funny.
Right.
Because you've got other people around you who are kind of like, you can sense that they agree that the person's not funny. Whereas with this guy, because it's quite intense and he's often sat one-to-one with a podcast
You have to
host,
nod. You have to nod a lot.
You just have to nod. It reminds me like you'd go to like a country pub.
Right.
And there'd be a guy dressed like that who won't stop
roughly that shape.
who won't stop smoking. Toad of Toad Hall in a three-piece suit that he hasn't taken off in 9 days.
Yeah.
Right. You go, by the way,
William Windbag III.
did you get the sirloin steak? And you go, what? I'm just seeing my missus. You go, but did you get a sirloin steak? You know it's not as flavoursome as rump, don't you?
You know why that is?
Well, it costs £4 more, don't you? But the reason they serve you sirloin is it's an easier markup for restaurants. You knew that about the restaurant industry, didn't you? And you're sat there with your missus.
That's actually not the most flavourful cut. Why is that not the most flavourful cut? Well, they don't get it from cows that have been grass-fed.
Right. Now, watch the way you're talking. You know who you're close to?
Peterson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, and it's not a million miles from Joseph Valente.
Right.
You could get a script of what he's just said about Red Bull, and you could put it into Peterson. You'd be like, the thing with Coca-Cola, there's no competitors. Obviously, the closest they come, Red Bull, but it doesn't taste nice. But here's the thing, and here's the goddamn thing about Red Bull. It is both a drug and a placebo at the same time. And you'd be like, this is fucking nonsense. What's he on about? But similar with Joseph Valente, you can imagine him bumbling through something like, the interesting thing with Coca-Cola is the only competitor is Red Bull. And like, we would sit here going, look at that fucking...
And of course, the king of them all, this is the thing with Red Bull and Coca-Cola, folks. They say it has one competitor, but it's not very nice. It's not very nice at all.
That would get clipped up, and everyone would go, what the fuck is he talking about? Trump's gone mad again.
They say it tastes like piss.
Peterson, we're sat here taking a piss doing impressions.
Yeah, right.
Valente, everyone's going, this is the thickest man on earth.
Old Etonian.
When Cuddly Grandad Money does it, when Cuddly Uncle Isa does it, when Uncle Isa says all this stuff, we go, I love Uncle Isa. Let's get him on. Let's get him on Chris Williamson for the 10th time.
He does say things that are the opposite to what I think. Yeah, exactly.
But this is the thing with him, and it's like he is, and I've watched more of him, and I've really like my thing with him. I'm like, why do I want to listen to you? Because I don't think I care about anything you're saying.
Oh no, I don't give a fuck.
The more I kind of we can watch the next clip now, right? And this one, I mean, it's got loads of this of like. I think this is the one. It might not be this one. There's one where he's just moaning about service staff trying to close cafes early, and he's like, "The problem with cafes, you get there 20 minutes before you're about to leave, and you can tell they're mopping up, and you feel bloody rude, and you don't want to go there anymore. This is the problem. It's like it's because they're earning like £7 an hour. They just want to fucking go home.
Yeah.
But like, we watch this one, and it's a similar vibe.
We're going to have to do a drip check on this in a minute as well. But yeah, here's his Uncle Percy Windbag talking about Starbucks.
Half an hour before a Starbucks closed at a major UK railway station. I had luggage because we'd just come back on the Eurostar. I obviously didn't take huge suitcases into Starbucks, so I sat down at a table outside the Starbucks where my luggage wouldn't get in the way of anybody else, and sent my wife and daughter in to get coffee. And while I was sitting there, 25 minutes before the restaurant closed, someone made me move because they were clearing the tables away. I absolutely lost it. That is an abominable thing to do. Now, I don't know, and I'd like to know, is this because coffee shops pay inadequate overtime, and therefore everybody feels that effectively they're on the clock for the last half hour.
Yes,
and they've got to get as much cleaning done in the last half hour of the day as they possibly can.
That's it.
What I'm saying is that someone looking at the sales data from a coffee shop might get completely the wrong impression because they think it's the time of day that's diminishing demand for coffee.
Yeah, people don't drink coffee at 5 o'clock.
The behaviour of the restaurant itself as it nears closing time.
See, that is an example of the kind of like, there's so much of a premium on what he says on like being contrarian. So they might be looking at the data and they might be thinking that the people sell less coffee at 5 p.m. because people want to have coffee in the morning. It's not because of that. It's because the staff want to close up too quickly when I'm sat there with my wife. No. It's actually not that. It's like it's actually not that.
But this is the thing though. Like and the kind of ethos behind what he's saying is like, I don't really care if you're about to finish a bloody shift. Don't make me move my bag.
Yeah, that's right.
And the amount of people who I know who are like, you know, vaguely left wing, who are workers' rights, and yet they love this guy.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, what is it? And I think that's so interesting that, and I think this says a lot about the country, that like, if that's Joseph Valente saying that, we're going, you nasty fucking capitalist schmuck, you fucking bastard.
It's
we
not
don't
cloaked in this like psychological insights, data-driven vibe that Rory Sutherland presents it in.
But I don't think it's even the fact that it's data-driven. I think it's cuddly old Uncle Etonian, and it's like, he's got his Rupert Bear cardigan on. Do you know what I mean? And I do think. I mean, I like the typical trope is we all have a kind of racist, nasty uncle or granddad. I did have one of those.
Right.
My nan's husband, my nasty old nan, her third husband, who sadly passed away 3 or 4 years ago, a guy called Bernard, who ostensibly was my granddad. Right. Because my biological granddad died when I was like literally a couple of weeks old. Right. And my nan's husband, Bernard, was in my life from like the age of 3. They got married when I was 3. Right. I was the page boy at their wedding, like a little suit, right? And this guy, he was so similar to Rory Sutherland. Right. My nan got with him because he was the landlord of her local pub.
What a sentence that is, by the way.
Yeah. And she used to, and when he was alive, they would joke about this, which was difficult at dinner, but they would joke about how they would sneak upstairs while he was on shift
to have it off.
To shag. Yeah.
Class by them.
But he was this guy. He was the loudest man in the pub. And it's like you go around his for dinner, and it's like, you would have to accept that he's going to fucking talk and you're going to fucking listen. Right. And did he always have the nicest views? No. But he was just so good at talking.
Compelling.
It's kind of like Boris Johnson syndrome of like, he's a fucking good talker. And
Farage is a bit like that as well.
Yeah. And I don't want to say, like, my nan's husband, he wasn't that bad. Like he wasn't like out, he never said a slur, he was never outright. The closest he came, and it was quite funny, because there were times, I remember being like a teenager. I had very long hair, right, as a teenager, and I do have now, but I very much did then. Had a very quite like effeminate face, right. I just look like a girl, and my Bernard, my nan's husband, was like, Jake, you got to cut your hair. You can't walk around like that. He looks like a woman. For goodness sake, Eileen. That's my nanny. Like, he has to cut his hair. And so I remember, like, I always loved him. But I remember at the age of 14, and that's when you first start getting a bit like left wing, like, fight the power. Yeah. I remember being like, I don't know if I like Bernard anymore. Yeah. Maybe he's not my granddad, right? Because he was always at me to cut my fucking hair. And then the best thing happened. He had like from a previous marriage, like a biological granddaughter, right, who was a few years above me at school, and she came out as gay, right? And he hated like that. He couldn't.
He didn't like that.
He wasn't happy.
Right.
He was not fucking happy. And I remember at Christmas once, winding him up, sat there, because we'd always go around his house on Boxing Day, right, my nan's house and his house, and have dinner on Boxing Day. And me and my dad still laugh about this, that like, we were winding him up, being like, I think his granddaughter was called like Sarah or something like that. So, you seen Sarah recently? He'd be like, I don't know. We'd be like, have you ever met a girlfriend, have you, Bernard? He'd be like, he was having it. And my nan was like, don't say anything else, Bernard. You're going to say something you're going to regret. Just don't say anything. And he was like, no, I'm fed up with it. And I remember once he went, it's just bloody buggery. And I'm sat there, 14, expert on lesbians at the time. Yeah. Like, well, it's not that. It's loads of things, but it's not that.
I think you tried to be nasty. You're just not even factually correct. Not even close.
Sodomy.
Yeah.
No, it's not sodomy.
It's not sodomy.
I think they can, but I don't think they are.
I mean, I guess you can get a strap on if you want.
But he's an example of like that Rory Sutherland guy. He's a Tory.
He must be, yeah.
He's a Tory. No, he is. We can watch the next clip. He's a fucking Tory. Like, watch the next clip. The next clip, he's talking about going to Ibiza, right? And he literally says, I mean, we'll get, like... He talks about how right-wing he is in this.
Did you go raving in Ibiza, Rory?
No, I went and there was annoying background noise. I remember that you simply opened... I was trying to sit on the balcony.
Whereabouts did you stay?
I was staying in the Ibiza Grand Hotel for a marketing conference. And then we went into town, which was very, very interesting. Anthropologically, it was kind of interesting, because to me, it's very, very weird. To be honest, I'm slightly claustrophobic. And also, I'm too right-wing to take E. This idea of just loving everybody indiscriminately strikes me as just, it's a step too far. I want a drug where you sit in the corner making snarky comments about the people on the next table. I don't want a drug where you're suffused with indiscriminate love for your fellow man.
I'd love to see you in the DC-10 smoking area. Observing human nature.
But and I'm not saying being right wing's anything to be ashamed of, but I just think it's so interesting. Like, the kind of people that we know who really love this guy are people who, if anyone else was like, I'm right wing, they'd be like, get back. Whereas with him, it's like, oh, cuddly old granddad Rory. Yeah. He's all right.
And I think he's the acceptable face of kind of Thatcherism, pull yourself up by your bootstraps Thatcherism. Also, there's this kind of thing where it's like...
by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with him. Like...
Politically, I don't think he said anything particularly objectionable, but I guess it's like this kind of like the primacy of the company or the corporation above anything, right? Like, all of these problems, he doesn't touch on, like, he's supposedly a guy that's about like big ideas and like big way, like behavioural change and behavioural economics. How can you nudge people into doing what you want? He doesn't apply that to like a social context in any other way than like, how could you get someone to buy more of a fizzy drink? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the extent of his thinking.
It's the extent of what he's saying.
Right.
But I think when you boil down a lot of what he says about advertising and marketing, his basic point is it's less about the product and more about how you present the product.
Which he is in a nutshell himself.
Exactly. He is marketing. Yeah. He is the exact kind of product people don't like. Yeah. But because it's presented as cuddly old Uncle Rory.
Yes.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't, by the way. I'm not saying there's anything fucking wrong with that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you should have to hate him just because he's a capitalist.
I can also forgive him for saying stuff that's like bollocks or less insightful, because, like you said, he literally is a podcaster now.
Everyone's
that is his
saying
job.
Bollocks.
Yeah.
And he's really good at it.
Yeah.
He's really good at it.
And it's like, if you're on 9 hours of podcasts a week and every one of them wants you to do like a pithy anecdote on how to like make a cafe that sells only bacon butties and why that would be good or whatever, you're going to end up saying like, I wonder why coffee shops sell less coffee at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mate, he's Porky Parry, but he takes himself seriously.
Yeah, that's true.
That is literally it. But he's really good at it. I listened to the Jamie Lang one, and he does this long bit. It's like, of all the things to like nail your colours to the wall about.
He dies on a lot of odd hills.
Yeah. Well, so one of those hills is he goes, no, I believe, Jamie, most of the things we do are based on how we feel about ourselves whilst we're doing them. And it's like, that means nothing. But Jamie Lang sat there like, yes, yeah, of course.
Right.
It's like watching fucking Peter Pan and Hook.
It's like,
right, yeah. And he goes, I'll give you an example. I like wearing shorts. And Lang's like, yeah. And he goes, I go on holiday, I always wear shorts. And James like, uh-huh. And he goes, in the UK, it's rarely so cold that you have to wear trousers. Lang's like...
Apart from 7 months of the year,
yeah. But Lang's like, you're right, yeah, I mean, my home is like 19 degrees. He's like, right, but you wear trousers, don't you? Because shorts look a bit silly.
Yeah.
And James Lang's like, yeah. And he goes, I believe if we could do whatever we wanted, we would just wear shorts all the bloody time. But we can't, because we're ashamed of ourselves. And that's what it comes down to. That's the human condition. It's like, that's the human condition.
He does have an air of the hypnotist about him. Or he has an air of the policeman that's trying to force a confession out of you a little bit. Yeah. You'd wear shorts all the time, wouldn't you? I'm not sure that I would, actually. You would. You said you would.
He goes on, deep down, I think we'd all bloody be naturists if we could. And Lang's like, well, I don't know about that, Jamie.
You want to get your cock out, don't you?
Yeah,
no, I'm not sure that I do.
That's what he said. He he goes, picture this, Jamie. If you were in a villa alone, swimming pool outside, you wouldn't bother with trunks, would you? And he's like you say, he's trying to get him to confess. He's like, I guess I wouldn't. No, he's like, you got your lovely wife with you. You got a nice wife, haven't you, Jamie? You wouldn't want her to wear a bathing costume. Of course, she's beautiful. And he's like, oh no, I guess not. He's like, so you'd be naked.
If I came round to your house, Jamie, and I had the body of a 17-year-old Vietnamese prostitute in the back, a lovely boy called Phan Trang, you'd help me bury him, wouldn't you? You would do that for me, Jamie, wouldn't you? Come on now, Jamie.
He's so convincing. He's such a good speaker.
I agree.
That they're going, yeah. I mean, there was one point. I think it was directly after that, and he goes, I mean, people often ask me what I think of like trans people using women's toilets. I'm like, come on, here we fucking go.
This is podcasting.
Yeah, here we go. Like, here we fucking go. And what he says, he goes, I mean, my theory on that is I think, gendered toilets are ridiculous because I think deep down as men, if we had our way, we'd just piss anywhere. I was like, I think that might be the smartest thing anyone's said about that debate.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it. I was like, if I apply that to myself, I was like, what are my thoughts on like trans people using toilets? I'm like, I think, don't care, do whatever makes you feel comfortable. There's so few trans people, just do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, if someone said to me, oh yeah, but if you heard about someone got attacked by blah, 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 what about? I'll be like, oh god, well maybe we should. But then I was like, that is the best way of answering that question. Is like, if someone says to you, thoughts about trans people using toilets, go, I'd like to piss on the floor.
I'd like to piss anywhere. Yeah.
You've won.
Yeah.
See,
like, if you watched Mad Men?
No.
So Mad Men is, the central figure in Mad Men is obviously Don Draper, played by John Hamm. And the story of that is him coming up in rooms full of these squares, basically. These
like Rory types.
Exactly, yeah. Well, no. So Rory is the kind of out there thinker, the avant-garde thinker.
He's the Don Draper.
Exactly. In the room of kind of square businessmen just desperate to be told an insight. It's like him, and Malcolm Gladwell does this as well, just like, actually it's the opposite of what you thought kind of thing. And the story of Don Draper is that he gradually gets like less and less interested, more and more disillusioned, more and more ready for his own death, effectively. Yeah. That he can't really be that guy anymore. And then at the end is these series of pitches where you're used to seeing him come in early in those things and like smash it out of the park, and then he's coming in and he's like got food down his front and he's drunk and whatever. And it's like, I'm surprised that I think if he keeps podcasting, there will have to be a moment like that. Do you know what I mean? Where gradually this guy's a brilliant thinker. I mean, maybe he's been doing it for like 25 years and no one's really called him on it yet. But if he keeps coming in and being like, actually, coffee shops should open at night, it's like someone's gonna have to be like, is Rory all right? Do you know what I mean?
I don't think you would. I think it's that he is perfectly presented, and this is the irony: is he's so perfectly marketed as a marketeer. That's the irony. that he's so well marketed as a marketeer.
Yeah.
That like, I don't think I saw a clip where he was like, a lot of people think the best thing to do if you can't sell a product is to put the price down. They make things cheaper. Why not put the price up? Yeah. It's like, well, I guess.
The other part about this is that I think the corporatization of our own lives, or the corporatization of the self, where you think of yourself as a business, right? Like, it's kind of attractive in those terms as well to think about these case studies that he gives, or these kind of like you say, these completely counterintuitive things. You want to sell more of something? Put the price up, right? But those things work for kind of like very specific products or luxury brands or whatever. We all want to think of ourselves as Rolex, I guess, right? I think our lives are more like Poundland, really, where if you buy it in enough volume and like it's just follow the basic rules. You don't need to listen to Rory Sutherland talk about marketing. Just price it low enough and just churn it out, and people will buy it. Like that's the simplicity of our lives. We're not all these kind of like counterintuitive moral lessons about like you say, putting the price up when you want to sell more or whatever. I think that's the thing that's attractive about him.
I know what you mean, but I also just think at a time where everyone is trying to do that, like, there's that kind of Tate thing of like, I've got to be the leanest, most effective, productive machine I can be. Ashton Hall, wake up at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I think it's nice when Uncle Isa's just saying something a bit bananas, when Unks is just waffling. Do you know what I mean? It's like I
100% agree with that.
Like none of this is like,
this is not dangerous. It's
not ruthless.
No.
He's not asking you to be ruthless with yourself.
No, he's an old man that stinks of vape smoke and cigarettes that wants to tell you funny stories about adverts.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah,
as long as he doesn't start saying like, "Do you think you'd come into the toilets and nosh me off?" Like, there's no like, and so I do.
I hope he never.
There's no suggestion of that I've heard. Right?
No.
It is just. Unc do be waffling.
Unks is just waffling.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, he is not a self-appointed. That's what I quite like.
Yes.
This is all by accident. He's just been pottering around chatting fucking rubbish.
Yeah, Unks has been waffling for ages.
And we made him king.
Yeah.
Well, apparently it was a young guy called Hugo who made the TikTok account. But the point is, who's been paid off by
handsomely.
Yeah.
But he was in that world. He had done that job. He had been successful at doing that. I think I would question, sometimes people use like, oh, this person's been successful in advertising or PR, as though that proves that they're not a snake oil salesman. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that to me is not often evidence of a truthful success, but there you go.
But it's when they say it about themselves.
Which
right?
he hasn't done so much.
He says, like, I've been doing this for a while, but he, like, in the same way that, like, Gary's economics is like, okay, I was obviously, like, the best trader in London, bro. You know, in terms of, like stock market. Like,
there's another Unk that's waffling. Talking about Unks that'll be waffling.
But he appointed himself that.
Right.
He went, I was the best trader in the city. Now I'm going to tell you why finance is fucked.
He didn't buy his
why the
TikTok account
markets
off
are broken.
Hugo, yeah.
No. Whereas he
Unks.
was just in a pub somewhere, chewing some poor couple's ear off while they're having their one date night of the year. Did I tell you what I did when I was working at Volvo? Because they were a funny bunch. And I'm going to fucking kill myself. I came out for steak and a bottle of red wine. I just want to have sex with my wife later. And this fucking cunt won't leave me alone. Yeah. And basically, someone started filming him, put it on TikTok, and now Unks is famous.
Yeah.
And now Chris Williams is flying him to America. He's like, I've just been saying this stuff in the garden of my local pub for the last 20 years, and now people want me to say it on a podcast.
I've been down the pheasant saying this for free.
I was boring the fucking ears off those poor Starbucks workers who were just trying to get home. They cleaned up an hour ago, but I'm telling them about how I got the Volvo contract in '98. Now, and it's like I think ultimately, and I don't want to go too like genius observation on this guy, but I think it's that. It's like he says something about ourselves rather than what he says about anything else. It's like if you want to listen to him talk about fucking Red Bull, you can.
Yeah.
If you want him to tell you why it's better to drink coffee at 6:30 in the evening, it's so he can keep fucking talking. That's why he drinks coffee.
Imagine this guy on gear. I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions on the advertising industry in the 90s, but from what I hear, it wasn't a clean living, matcha latte, sober trance rave kind of place.
No.
It was a go to lunch at 11 a.m, get home at 2 a.m, like spearmint rhino kind of place. He must have had some conversations over some...
He has bored the tits off some fucking strippers in his life. He has told some sex workers some things they do not need to know about contracts.
And you know what the shoe company Hush Puppies did then? You would have thought they would have put the price down. No, they didn't. They put the price up. And what's really interesting about that is, here's the thing interesting about that, is that actually it made them more desirable, would you believe, Svetlana? And when they were more desirable, then it's got to be wearing by a different class of people. Unks will be waffling.
Unks is waffling. How long have we done on Unks? We've done
plenty. Talking of Unks that be waffling.
Yeah, but I genuinely, and I think ultimately it's like, what do you want your millionaires to look like? Like, he will have his detractors. Exactly. He will have his detractors. I think this is what, I don't find him harmful, toxic, nasty.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything deceitful about him.
No, I find it boring, I guess. I
thought I did, and I fucking got through the episode with him and Jamie Lang like that. Yeah. I honestly, I was loving it. And I can't tell you what the fuck. I have to say, I got really excited when he started talking about trans people in toilets. I thought it was going to get a lot spicier.
But like, I guess this is why I'm not an entrepreneur into this kind of thing. It's just like I don't think stories about like how a Japanese car brand turned around their fortunes 20 years ago by doing something counterintuitive, like, I just don't give a fuck.
You don't think it says something interesting about the human condition? You don't think it's less about cars and more about people?
I do think that, like,
because that's the hook. I do
think it's fun.
This isn't marketing. It's psychology.
Yeah, the other part is
actually,
like,
I think that's marketing.
The other part is like, we can all remember Wikipedia. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is the thing that
not
they do
as much as this guy.
Yeah, Unks has been on Wikipedia, and it's like, sometimes there's not much insight. There's just interesting anecdotes, like him and Gladwell, and on the rest is entertainment, just reading out anecdotes from Wikipedia. Here's what happened with James Bond and blah blah blah. It's like anyone could do that, and I don't really care about the topic of like products or business enough. I think that sometimes he's insightful. I think he's a very, very funny and interesting talker. I will just listen to him on the basis of that alone. And I don't think he takes himself too seriously. So like you say, I don't know there's inherent harm there. But like I say, I'm not bothered about whether people drink Fanta more than they drink milk.
I think that says about you, though.
Right.
Because you do listen to The Rest is History sometimes.
Not sometimes, rather every week.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, this is the thing, yeah? I'm a capitalist.
Wow.
I like money.
How many minutes in are we on that? Yeah.
No, but I'm a capitalist.
Yeah.
I like money.
Yeah. I don't mind it either, actually.
No, but I really like it.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. And I'm. Do I care what actually happened between the Romans and the Ottomans a few hundred years ago?
I'm sure it's the same time period, but okay, we'll
check next week when we see what the Ottomans done to my hairline, because I might wish I'd had a Roman hairline. But you see what I'm saying? I don't give a fuck. I'm this guy. I like this.
You like stuff.
And I like things.
Marketing stuff.
I like belongings. I love a product, man.
Yeah.
I've got loads at home.
Go loads of products.
I'm going to buy some more.
Yeah.
But seriously, I think actually,
I guess all our generation. Sorry, go on.
Well, the only thing I was going to say specific, and I think what you were going to say about our generation of like,
we're all listening to an unk. It just depends what your unk is talking about.
Choose your flavour.
Yeah.
Mine is Old Uncle Money.
Yeah.
You like Old Uncle History.
Yeah.
Some people. What are the other ones?
Uncle Misogyny.
Old Uncle Politics.
Old Uncle Politics.
Alistair Campbell.
Yeah. Old Uncle War Criminal.
Yeah. One of the worst things that man ever did is that fucking Iraq War. Alistair Campbell.
Yeah.
Then he did his daughter as well. But the other thing he made her. But
that's got to go in it.
What?
That.
No.
Oh, I'm fine with it. I thought you wouldn't be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anymore.
He's committed one hideous crime that will stain the shores of this nation.
The landscape of
That's
Western...
the podcast. And then he did the Iraq War after that.
But no, I actually think, I was thinking about this, I think there's an alternative universe where it didn't really work out for me in comedy. I couldn't make a living out of it. I think I would have gone into advertising.
Do you reckon?
100.
Storytelling,
could you not
creativity.
See it? Well, no, I don't want to say, but waffling. Yapping.
Yeah, Unks do be waffling.
And chatting shit. I think if you can't make money in this industry as a chat shit merchant, advertising is the way to go.
Yeah, they're talking about chat shit merchants. Yeah, there's a
loads of gear, loads of booze, and you just chat shit. And you tell other people what shit to chat.
Yeah, and every so often you get Marcus Rashford to put your shoes on, and then you all go home. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
I could you see me in advertising?
Yes, I could.
Yeah,
I could see you in that kind of world. I can see you wearing more baseball caps, flat peak baseball caps. I could see you wearing unbelievably expensive Nike trainers, camouflage cargo trousers.
Oh yeah.
Bathing ape t-shirts.
Yeah.
And I could see you again going in to pitch why you should have Jay Huss advertising Sif bleach to a load of squares in suits.
I think you should. Yeah, exactly. Oh man,
talking about activating and creative activation and that kind of thing.
And then I'd like the idea of the arc being that you do that. And let's be honest, it's a bit of a fucking it's a bit of a nasty industry. You're being financially exploitative of the public, right? For your own personal gain. Then you do that for 30 years.
You're trying to manipulate them, yeah.
Yeah. You do that for 30 years, buy a house off the evil money. And then you retire into becoming this kind of philosopher who says it's not actually about money, it's about how people think, actually.
And when he was advertising British American tobacco for probably 15 years during the late 80s and early 90s, that was really about how people felt when they were giving themselves lung cancer.
It's not really about cigarettes as such, it's about how we view ourselves.
And here's what we did. You'd think the Cambodian children wouldn't want to buy the cigarettes. It turns out they do.
No, I've got a lot of... Am I tuning into the next Rory Sutherland podcast? Maybe not. Am I watching
Stopping
the
a clip on of him?
Yeah.
100%.
I am. And it's because Unks be fucking yapping, man. And just like how the Kane Brown fans want to. By the way, Kane Brown. This is one of the funniest things about that guy. He does live shows. I think I've shown you this. That they bring Uncle Percy.
Yeah, on behind a screen.
He's behind the wall.
Yeah.
What they do is they build a set on stage, and they put Uncle Percy behind a wall.
They don't put his arms through the wall.
They just put 2 holes in the wall so he can put his arms through, so his gloved hands.
At the live show, we're going to do that, but Uncle Moneybags is going to be behind there.
We've got Rory Sutherland in
just
a box.
A load of
we've got Rory Sutherland in a little box.
Lost Mary vapor.
And here's the thing. I like him.
I don't
think
mind
he's
him.
good. He reminds me of my nasty old granddad who thought that lesbianism was
inappropriate.
Bloody buggery. It was sodomy.
If you see any unks out there, it could be Dominic Sambrook, the history unk. It could be old Percy Windbag, the money unk. It could be Percy, the arse-eating unk.
The Rastafarian.
The Rastafarian arse-eating unk. Do stick with them. Give them a bit of your time, because you never know. They might teach you a lesson about why hot dogs are better than burgers in certain parts of America.
They chat so much shit.
Yeah.
They are the monkeys with the typewriters, and every now and then, do they say something particularly intelligent? Not really, but it's just about clippable. And I hope we've
and that's
been
the
that for
Screen Rock
you.
Podcast. See you next week.
Up the rotters.